Hi, I'm Gerry Roche. Thanks for inviting me to participate with this unique group on this special mission. I hope I'll be worthy. Speaking of hope, it seems appropriate to mention another virtue. We're meeting in a city whose root word philos means love. Now, if we can build faith on top of love and hope, we should be home free. So let's be about it. Since this is being taped, I'm not sure how much you already know about me. But just in case, you deserve to know what I do. Well, I do executive recruiting. I've placed CEOs for IBM, AT&T, Home Depot, The Gap, 3M, Coca-Cola, Chubb, and I recruited Paul Tagliabue as the NFL commissioner, as well as thousands of others. We happen to be the largest in the world at what we do. In the not-for-profit world, we've placed the head of the Red Cross, the CFO of the New York Archdiocese, presidents of Sloan Kettering and Johns Hopkins, CFO and CIO at Maryknoll, as well as numerous college and university presidents and foundation presidents. So why am I here? Basically, Jeff Boissy asked me to see if anything in my experience could be applied to the church. Or as Fred Gluck, former managing partner of McKinsey, wrote in the May issue of America, what can the church learn from Walmart? Well, that sent me back in time to around the mid-'80s. My friend Bill Byron, former rector of Georgetown and the former president of Catholic University, and the then Archbishop, now Cardinal McCarrick, asked me to visit with the papal nuncio Pio Laghi in Washington for basically the same reason. How can the church do a better job at choosing people for top jobs in the church, specifically the hierarchy? It was then that I entertained a fantasy. I would love to start a search firm dedicated specifically to the recruitment, identification, evaluation, and placement of bishops and cardinals for the church. Please join me in my fantasy as I tell you what transpired during that 4-hour session. To start with, Bishop Laghi said he was open to listening to my suggestions, but that he was confident of his recommendations to Rome because the Holy Spirit was on his side. To which I replied with the old sailor's chanty, pray to God, but row for shore. So what really is involved? Step one, define the structure. Specifically, to whom does the job report and who reports to the new person? Not too much difficulty here. Step two, who will make the decision? In other words, whom do I listen to in the process? Is it the nuncio, some ecclesiastical committee, some door-guarding adjutant, or the Pope? Step three, define the specifications. If you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. Language, cultural background, geographic preferences, education, level of orthodoxy, administrative skills, managerial skills, fundraising, and political adroitness, all these should be discussed and nailed down. That's the easy part. Now the hard part. What kind of human being? What kind of character and personality do we need? The subjective side, the right brain stuff, the DNA, communicating skills, human sensitivity, and maybe the hardest part of all to pin down, the level of spirituality. Pio Laghi said, this is assumed. I say, assume nothing. Now we write up the specs and get the powers to be to sign off on them. Not just the title people, but all the real influential decision makers. This is an arduous process and calls for maximum clarity, honesty, unvarnished communications, and probably several drafts. Step four, the process. If you only have one option, you don't have any options. Traditionally, 3 candidates are submitted to Rome, and that's fine. But how do we get down to the 3? At the time I visited with Laghi, we got recommendations through letters, real hard copy letters. No email then. The results were almost all recommendations of incumbents and other members of the hierarchy. I strongly suggested then, and I'm even stronger on this point now, spread the net. Get suggestions from almost everywhere. Priests, religious, parish councils, lay administrators, parishioners, religious orders, open it up and then boil it down. Then we'll need two major new means of comparing candidates with the specs. First, personal interviews, in-depth and repeated until the focus is dead clear. At the Loggy meeting, he said he did very few personal interviews. Quote, too much risk of disclosure and high expectations, unquote. I say there is no better way to evaluate an individual than eyeball to eyeball. Then you manage the expectations. And it's best to have interviews in informal, relaxed settings where you can get a fix on the whole package. Second, references. These cannot be overdone. Ask as broad a spectrum and universe as possible. Then evaluate the people giving the references. All references are not created equal. When contradicting references surface, double the number of references and ask tough questions. Keep going until all your work develops a clear picture and your intuition kicks in. If you have any doubts, pass and get new candidates. Make the tough decisions. Who said this work was easy? Oh, yes. One more thing, pray. The Holy Spirit really works, but usually not until you do.